Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to yet another episode of our podcast, Wisdom Save. I'm Ken,
I'm Hannah.
and today we're kind of continuing with the theme that we've been going with, kind of our standard theme going forward. Last time we did a little conversation about a fun and interesting topic that Hannah had chosen for us that I knew nothing about ahead of time. Little spooky stories. We started off with cryptids and then ended up going into living nightmare fuel that I now have to worry about when I sleep. Um, but that means it's my turn again. So today's topic is I mentioned I mentioned at the end of my first video that it was something that I needed to do a little bit more research on, and that it was something that maybe you kind of knew about, but it's a very nuanced topic and requires a lot of research. So I have completed said research, and I think today's topic is going to be something that you've heard me rant about a lot, and you've heard me bring up in casual conversation in a bunch of different situations.
Okay.
But that not a lot of people. I'm sure that some of our listeners will understand it, but it's definitely something that I have a not so much a fascination as is a fixation on it.
Okay.
It's how
Is it like the news?
it's not the news. No. Oh God, I couldn't possibly. I get enough of that. No. So okay. So let's just dive right into it. How familiar are you with the concept of something like the Myers-Briggs test?
Oh, I've done those.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you know what that is.
Yeah.
Cool. We're not talking about that today.
Oh, okay.
It's a very useful tool for getting to understand a person's personality and how they interact with the world. But that ain't my jam.
Okay.
So, how about a person's astrological sign or their chart? Yeah, people tend to use that a lot as a way to kind of reveal aspects about your own personality or predict certain behaviors of people, whether you believe in it or not. It's a tool that people can use to kind of get to understand someone before you really know them, or if you do know them, to understand why they do the things they do.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not talking about that today.
What the hell? What did I?
This is something that I think has a lot of pros and cons compared to things like that and other personality psychograph type things.
Okay.
But it's not something that a lot of people really know about, unless you are a humongous fucking nerd like me.
I think I might know what we're doing.
I think you already do. I can see with a smile on your face. Today we are going to be talking about something called color philosophy.
There you go.
Yeah, you knew it. You, as soon as I went into it, you knew where this was going. So I'll tone down on the hamming it up, and we'll get right into the gears of this. So color philosophy is not so much a predictor of personality or a predictor of what a person is likely to react or what they're likely to do in a situation, as much as it is a way to explain their motivations. Now, where it stems from, for those of you who don't know, for our listeners who don't know, it actually comes from a trading card game.
More Magic the Gathering.
More Magic the Gathering. So weirdly enough, regardless of your feelings on tabletop games or on specifically Magic the Gathering in general, they have a framework for how you can understand how cards in the game work, and they're divided into different colors, and each color has a personality and a framework and a set of like rules that they can follow by, like red cards in Magic are all going to do like very similar things, and there are things that red can do that green can't do, and vice versa. So you're always going to be able to kind of predict what's going on in the game based on what colors a person is using in their deck. But that actually was based around sort of a motivation or like reaction prediction tool, that I guess people just kind of came up with when they were developing the game. I think it kind of like took shape as the game changed, but like sort of unrelated to the game, it has its own like there's a structure and there's a balance to the way that each of the 5 colors in the game reflect aspects of a person's personality. And by understanding like what colors a person primarily represents, you can learn a lot about how they're likely to act in a situation, or like how they're likely to behave given stress, or like if something traumatic happens, like how are they likely to process it. It's more of a prediction tool than a personality tool. So for Hannah has already heard me rant about it a lot, but for those of you who don't know like how it works, kind of like how there's a bunch of different zodiac signs and each of them have like different characteristics, or how
D&D has alignments.
Yeah, D&D has a lot. That's actually a great example to that. How they have alignments, and how those alignments like kind of predict certain types of behaviors. Myers-Briggs personality type, you can kind of get a sense of like, oh, this person is more introverted, so they're likely to be a little bit more closed off, like that kind of a thing. There are 5 like main colors that are different like major archetypes of, I guess, personality. It's not so much personality as motivation, but they're all based off of colors. I guess white and black are technically shades.
Oh, fuck off with that
shit. They're colors.
If I can use it as paint, then it's a color. Like
that is the official wisdom save stance, is that white and black are colors, as is the other 3 are red, blue, and green.
And don't come after me. I don't give a crap what Google says about it being a shade. Like, fuck you.
Yeah, she's an artist, so she knows.
I just don't care.
Sure.
Like all y'all trolls out there, like my favorite color is black.
So, so we're going to talk about how that, like what just happened there, we're going to talk about how that's red.
Oh, okay.
Like that's a very red trait. And a very red reaction to what you're saying, and that's kind of that's half the fun of this too. Is that, like I'm interested to see how I can pinpoint your reactions and some of the things that you do and say, and like where they fall on like the spectrum of like what color you are.
All right.
So for those of you who are listening, kind of follow along with each of these as I explain them, and see if you kind of like fall into any of these camps. The first thing that I should mention is that for each of these 5 colors, these are very like broad, almost philosophical dissections. Yeah, and like it tends to be like a very like, it's not going to be like pinpointed to your specific like or like small behaviors. It's not like, oh, like someone who's, these descriptions aren't going to say like, oh yeah, someone who's white aligned like really likes to like
go to the beach.
Yeah, go to the. I was actually just about to say that. That's perfect. It's not going to be like that. These are like grand philosophical, like defining characteristics that you can then kind of narrow down into pinpointing your individual behaviors and like see where they fall under. It's a lot of like theory, which is why I certainly wouldn't call this like respected science or anything.
Right.
Like that. It's just like a really fun way to get a sense of how people would like to kind of predict people. So, like I said, the 5 colors, they actually follow a loose circle, and that circle is kind of relevant in a way we'll explain later. But it is white, blue, black, red, and green. You can be one of those.
Actually, aren't most people all of them?
As a matter of fact, I would say everyone has a little bit of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how, going back to the Myers-Briggs example, it's like how if a person is introverted,
Mm-hmm.
that's not saying like they literally are incapable of introducing themselves to a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
They just tend to not
You're
want
technically an
to do that.
introvert, but depending on how introverted you are, it depends on you and
Yeah.
how introverted you are.
Yeah, and depending on the situation, like if you're an introvert who is surrounded by a bunch of their friends at a party, maybe you're going to be a little bit more sociable and like energized.
Or maybe the person that won't even fucking pick the phone up when it rings, and instead you chuck your phone and hope it dies,
Like some people
like
I know.
me.
Exactly. Um, uh, though, just because you are like you fall mainly into one of these camps or several of these camps, because you can be multicolored.
Well, also, I'm pretty sure, like, you technically have a little bit of all of these, but your general prominent colors are usually two and sometimes three of these.
That's the tendency that I find. In this is not super relevant to the whole thing, but in the game a lot of cards tend to be one color
Mm-hmm.
because that's just easier for when you're playing a game.
Uh,
But like human beings in real life tend to be a lot more nuanced than like fictional characters.
mm-hmm.
So most people tend to be at least two colors prominently displayed, and in fact like a lot of the like personality traits, character flaws, like decision making processes all come from the conflict or unity between those two
It's
colors.
kind of like how some people are true neutral, but most people are like neutral good
Yeah.
because it's just
Yeah, you
most people aren't just neutral.
sure.
But then like Holly, who was lawful.
Holly being her
Oh
D&D
yeah,
character, by the way.
I had her written down as like lawful good or
I
not
think you
lawful neutral or
started
something like
lawful
that.
good.
And then
Sure.
everyone kept saying I should have been like neutral evil or some kind of crap.
That
But I kept saying that it was because I was like following my own code, which kind of like made me three things all at once. Like some people thought I was good, some people thought I was evil, but I thought I was lawful.
Yeah, and that actually that raises an interesting point that we're going to get to later about how like I tend to use colors as a way to define characters in my Dungeons and Dragons campaigns as opposed to alignment, because I find that alignment can be very restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
What you see as like I am following a strict code of conduct which makes me lawful, it depends on what that code of conduct is, and you may see it as like I'm honor bound and following my code, and other people may see that code as not lawful,
No, just
quote
following my own
unquote.
rules.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is like if your code is I follow my own rules and do what I want, like are you lawful or are you chaotic? You're following a code, but you're doing whatever you want. It's muddy, it's complicated.
Yeah.
With colors, it's like it's much easier to predict like, oh, this is why you're doing that behavior.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, the like vast psychological overview of each of the five colors. Starting with white. Someone who is white aligned um, tends to put value in the group, the community, and civilization as a whole. White believes that suffering, like universal suffering, is a byproduct of individuals not prioritizing the good of the group.
Mm-hmm.
White's ultimate goal, because every color has a goal and a method,
Okay.
their ultimate goal is peace. If someone who was white aligned had like unlimited power and resources, total control over the world, they can make it however they want. They want a world where there is no unnecessary suffering. There is life is as good as it can be for every individual person, and everyone gets along, and no one wants to like stir the pot, disturb the bonds of peace. Like White's ultimate goal is everybody living together in harmony,
Uh-huh.
in a sense. This can be taken to extremes on both sides. There is no inherent like goodness or morality to colors, though some people do perceive them that way. It
Mm-hmm.
really depends on your perspective. Um, in order to like protect and kind of govern over the community that it values, white makes use of and puts value in a number of broad concepts. Things like morality, especially things like ethics, grace, truth. It uses morality as a way to kind of like as a litmus test. Like like morality is the goal you should strive to be a moral person. White tends to decide what moral is, which can lead to some problems. They value order, especially like duty and discipline.
Duty.
Yeah, not that kind of duty. um, they value uniformity. You'll tend to find a lot of white-aligned organizations are like religions or churches, because it's a communal gathering place that people can go together and all kind of like they all like generally agree and like believe in the same things. And they care about structure. Government as a whole tends to be a very white concept. They argue for like law and reason and order, things like that. I see you roll your eyes the whole way through. White tends to be associated with justice and quote unquote good, but that's because in general we live in a society, and so like we're kind of conditioned to see society as inherently good, and so therefore striving to make society better means you are good. But white can absolutely be taken to its extremes. An example of like a positive white aligned organization would be like a church, like an after school club, like any place where like people get together with like-minded similar interests and like work together, like help each other, provide a community where you can all like kind of like build a social group. That those tend to be like the more positive aspects of white. When taken to its extreme, especially if white is left unchecked, or if white finds that everyone in the society isn't working towards the same unified goal, it tends to want to kind of force people to follow that goal. White, while being the color of community and justice and law, can also be the color of authoritarianism, the color of fascism. Um, if it sees you as bucking the system and it inherently believes the system to be good, then it is willing to do whatever it takes to make you obey the good system. And that's white tends to make excuses for itself, and it can do amoral things because it sees itself as just. That's when it tends to go way off the deep end.
This isn't one of my ally colors, is it?
No, yeah. Oh, and we'll get into the concept of ally and enemy colors. Certain colors like others for aspects of themselves,
and certain colors
hate them. Yeah. So I would say, and we'll get into the other colors, but like I would say you are red and green. And I believe that green is an ally to white, but red and white do not get along. They don't like each other. They're the polar opposite. But anyway, so that's like the broad spectrum concept of white. It tends to be like white aligned people in your social circle might be like the mom friend, like the one who like checks up on you at a party, and like if you pass out on the couch, make sure you're like tucked in, and that you have you have a snack bag, you have your shoes off, make sure you have a glass of water in case you wake up at night. They're the white aligned person.
But also, if you shit on the carpet, they're like gonna rip your head off, and they're gonna be like, I just got that carpet cleaned, like, my god.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. White also tends to be the color of like authoritarian dictatorships who believe that they are inherently just by virtue of their existence. So, deviating slightly over to one of white's allied colors, I said they were in a circle because they the ones that are close to each other are allies, and the ones that are distant from each other are enemies. So Now, an ally color to white being blue. Blue, on the other hand, blue is the color that seeks perfection. Blue wants to perfect itself and wants to perfect its surroundings. It looks at the world and it sees unlimited opportunity to achieve perfection. Its goal is to kind of figure out what you, and inevitably society, are capable of achieving with the right education, the right experience, and the right tools. The life of someone who is inherently blue aligned is a life of constant discovery. You're always trying to like prove yourself, to better yourself. Someone who's blue aligned is the kind of person who like goes out onto the track field at the high school every morning and they like run like, oh, I did a 6-minute mile today. Like, that's really impressive. I bet you tomorrow I can make it in 5:40. And like they'll keep breaking their goals and they'll keep achieving, but achievement is literally just a stepping stone on the way to the next achievement for someone who's blue. They're never satisfied and then can just be like, okay, cool, I achieved that. I'm done now. They always have to be better.
Right.
Blue likes to be open to possibilities, but it does not like to be hasty. Blue is very much the think before you act color. It's methodical and exact and recognizes that there's many forces in the world, even ones inside of yourself, that will lead you astray. It wants to constantly be challenging and second-guessing itself so that it can stay on the path that it carved for itself. It is better for blue to think your options out carefully and choose correctly than to rush into a decision and be wrong. Even if that means that by taking the time, your inaction led to something bad happening. It sees like if I had rushed, it would have been worse. Like you have to just kind of you gotta make sure you're doing the right thing. Yeah, again, it's an enemy color of red. So you're like, I don't get. Although there's a little bit of blue in you.
Yeah,
it's where a lot
of, but not that part.
No, yeah, well, there's elements of it, but not. It's not to an extreme because I think it's a smaller part of you. But I definitely think that like some of your internal conflicts come from where the red parts of you just clash with like everything else. Which like I do the same thing too. So.
But aren't I mostly red now?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would say so. So that we'll get to red. We'll get to that.
red.
I know. We know which one you want to talk about. We'll get there. We're 2 away. In terms of like a general worldview, blue believes in the concept of tabula rasa. Basically, not that. Not the D&D monster. Tabula rasa is kind of this concept that everyone is born as like a blank slate, and that you have the potential to become anything. You just have to know how to get there. In the like nature versus nurture conflict, blue, like a very hardcore blue aligned person is like it's 100% nurture. Like you can just make yourself into anything you want to. Like your upbringing has nothing to do with it. Where you came from has nothing to do with it. What you like your family and all this stuff. Like you can always like sometimes it might be harder, but you can always achieve whatever you want to achieve. You just have to figure out how to do it. That's Blue's perspective on it. And Blue also, it doesn't think it's possible for it to be bad to acquire the potential for any conscious action. Blue is the kind of person who like, do you remember like, do you know about like the Anarchist Cookbook?
Yeah.
That was like, there was a bunch of like shit you probably like shouldn't be making in your garage, like bombs and shit. And it was like a kind of like a handbook to that. A blue aligned person is like, they're the kind of person who would look at that and be like, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to use it, but like, I mean, what if I run into a situation where I need that and I don't know? Like they wouldn't look at it because they're like, yeah, I want to like start some shit and like cause some trouble. They'd look at it to be like, well, I mean, like if I learn it, and then I never use it, at least I learned it. Like, what if I need it?
What if a zombie apocalypse happened and I need to know how to make a bomb?
Yep, exactly. Because of that, also, like, blue is kind of like the color that cares the most about, like, technology. Like, a blue aligned person is like the person who wants, like, they want the latest tech. They want, like, all the newest gadgets and gear, because, like, they're missing out on something. Like, there's this fear that, like, well, what if I'm not equipped with the right thing that I need in a situation where I need it? So they're the kind of person that's, like, always going out, like, chasing the newest phones, the newest, like,
everything.
Yeah, like, any new piece of tech that comes out, they tend to be, like, a little bit more interested in it. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, Blue's goal is omniscience. If Blue had infinite time, resources, money, whatever, they want to literally understand everything. That's their philosophical apex, I guess. So that's Blue. Now we move on to one of Blue's allies. We're 2 away from White, so that means we're in enemies of White.
Okay.
That's kind of how that, like, you have to kind of envision the circle. You can actually see the circle if you look at the back of a Magic the Gathering card, but, like...
Or if you look it up online.
Yeah, you'll be able to... They have, like little, like, diagrams of it. It's like a little, like, a pentagon shape, kind of. So, Black is, in a lot of ways, fundamentally the opposite of White on the concept of, like unity and sacrifice of the individual. White cares about sacrifice of the individual for the sake of the community. Black is the total opposite. Black doesn't really tend to see anything as fundamentally immoral. The only measure of right and wrong to Black should be whether or not it leads to success. It doesn't matter if it's, like, quote right or quote wrong, quote good or quote bad. Just, like, did it get you where you need to be? Black tends to be open to opportunities and strategies rejected by others as taboo. Things like betrayal. In extreme cases, like, they have a little bit more of, like, a morbid fascination with death. Black-aligned people will tend to do anything to ensure their own well-being, even at the expense of others. To Black, if they do anything less than that, it only lets other people do the same to them.
Right.
They kind of have a very cynical view of the world. And they don't really see, like, they can't trust any other individual. Black tends to have a lot of, like, trust issues. They don't tend to see any individual as being, like, it's a little bit harder to explain because Black is a little less, like, it's not something I have a lot of in me. They tend to see the world as, like, if I don't advocate for myself and do what I need to do, even if it screws other people over, they're going to screw me over first. It's extremely cynical.
So the first person to fuck you over if they think it's going to get them what they want.
Yeah, Black is the very first person to be like, hey, listen, no hard feelings. It's just, like, it's, like, they're, like, the master of, like, no hard feelings, it's just business. Like, you do the same thing to me. When it comes down to, like a structure that we all know that is inherently Black, I'd make an argument that capitalism is an inherently Black, like, structure. It's very much like work, like, take what you can get and build what's good for you, and then, like, if other people can, like, get up to that level, then good for them. It doesn't bother me any as long as they don't screw me over. And if other people aren't doing well for themselves, not my problem because I'm doing good for me. It's a very, like, self-focused. I don't want to say self-centered because there's negative connotations about that, but it's like a very self-focused philosophical perspective.
Still a color I don't like.
Yeah, well, because it's very not you.
Way to take a color that I really like and make it a color I don't like. Magic the Gathering.
You do wear a lot of black.
Yeah, I wear only black.
Exclusively black. It's an aesthetic. Um, Black isn't one of the biggest misunderstandings is that black isn't necessarily inherently evil because all colors are capable of evil and good.
Mm-hmm.
Black just it's not immoral, it's amoral.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the kind of person who like I'm going to do immoral things because I want to. It's just like I don't think that morality should be a factor in any of my decisions. Man, Percy is going over
Yeah, sorry if you can hear Percy in the background. He's clawing at the door and crying, but we can't let him in because if we did, we'd have to shut the door that we have open and we would cook. So,
there. Yeah, it's a little warm today.
welcome to Color Theory with a side dish of Percy's cries.
I mean, I consider it a bonus. It's like bonus content.
Ah,
He's like the third podcaster.
yeah.
So anyway, enough about our cat. Where was I? Oh yes. Black is like it's amoral. It doesn't really consider morality as a factor in its decision making. It's just like I have to do what I have to do. Some people are gonna hate it. Some people are gonna hate me. But as long as I'm doing okay, you got to make some hard choices.
Right.
That's Black's perspective on it. So we'll move away from there.
Thank God.
We'll get to Red,
yes,
which you're finally excited about. I want to just like leave it as simply as like red is the color of chaos, because it kind of is. It definitely is. Of all five of them, it's the most. But it's not so much chaos as much as it's like red wants freedom. Red wants the ability to do what it wants when it wants, and nobody can tell it otherwise. Red thinks that all that you have to do is if you listen to your heart and you just follow your heart and act according to what it's telling you, then there's not going to be any problems.
Right.
Like, sure, like bad things will happen because bad things happen all the time. But like, when it comes down to it, the only thing you need to follow is your gut and your heart.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the answers.
Got it.
They tell you what to do. Like, you're good. Too much thinking, you're going to overthink, you're going to fuck something up.
Mm-hmm.
Too much, like, trying to tell other people what to do, you're going to get somebody mad at you, they're going to, like, beat you up or something.
Right.
Like, you just got, like, just do what you feel like you have to do, live your life,
just
be happy. Yeah, just take it as it goes. It's very much a, like, live by the seat of your pants sort of color. Red tends to, like, be very passionate about life. Mm-hmm. More than any other color, and it thinks that like ultimately everyone should strive to live life to their fullest, whatever that means for you. Mm-hmm. Red sees life as an adventure. Life would be more fun if everybody stopped caring about rules, laws, traditions, personal appearance, people's judgments of you. Just spend your time indulging your desires, experience things, go out and explore, live a little. If you want to like lay in bed and watch YouTube videos for 15 hours, like just do it. Like there's time later. Time happens. Mm-hmm. Red just goes with the flow.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Exactly. Yeah. And because of that, red is kind of the color of like that's immediate gratification. Mm-hmm. It's like you get something in your head and you're like, ooh, I kind of want that. Your heart's telling you yes. Your gut's telling you yes. That's all you want. I gotta get that right now.
It's like that bear.
Oh yeah. So this a fun little anecdote. To give you some insight into Hannah's life. Some of you may be familiar with I think it's an IKEA product.
It's an IKEA product.
It's an IKEA product. It's like a really large,
like really big.
Yeah, like super chunky stuffed brown bear, and it's called it's Junkelskog.
Junkelskog.
Yeah, Junkelskog. It's because it has a tradition. Is IKEA Swedish?
Yeah.
Swedish. Yeah, it's a very Swedish name.
And I want him so bad.
Oh my God, she saw this bear. It was like was it like TikTok or was it?
It was on TikTok.
It was on TikTok. Okay, she saw it and just like for the next hour, it was just like we went to IKEA's website. We went to Amazon. We went to like all these other places, just like digging up. She's like, I gotta get this bear. I gotta get this jungle skunk. I need it in my life. Where would I put it? I don't know. I'll figure that out when I get it. I
He'll
gotta
live in
get
the
this
house with
bear.
us. He's gonna be my son. We need the jungle skunk.
Yeah, and then also in a very traditionally Red fashion, we eventually found out that like it might be hard to get a hold of, and then you were sad about it for like 15 minutes, and then you put your phone down and started doing something else, and then I think this is the next time we're talking about it. Like you're just like, okay, next thing, moving on.
Guess we can't get jungle skunk. I just hate my life, and then oh, look at this other thing that I could do.
Exactly. It's very like jump around energy. Once something is out of Red's field of vision, it's very easy for them to just be like, okay, I got something else in my head now.
See, now I really want jungle skunk again.
Well, see, yeah, because we talked about it. You like forgot it existed, and now it's on your mind.
I did not. I have a picture of it on my phone.
Oh, yeah, well, you would have found it again.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
It's not like it's gone forever. It's just like something else occupied your attention for a little bit. Red is also the color that tends to most often embrace like relationships and the passion that comes with them.
Mm-hmm.
Be they like friendships or love. Red tends to be very, very attached to those emotions because those emotions make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And Red doesn't like to do things that don't make them feel good and really enjoys doing things that do make them feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Red is like I have a lot of red in me too. Red is like it's so quintessential like Taurus, like in terms of like astrological signs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I love eating food, I love taking a nap, I love playing video games. I just want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And like don't make me like do stuff. Don't make me do like work. I want to do that. Red wants their like overarching goal is just they just want everybody to be able to live their life to the fullest, free, don't step on anybody's toes, just like live life with no regrets. That's all Red wants for the world, and it really resents people who try to prevent others from achieving that experience.
Right.
Pardon me. So last but not least, and this is another color that's very prevalent in you, for different reasons, and that is green.
Yay, green.
Green is next to both red and white, so it is an ally of red and white. It is an enemy of blue and black.
Mm-hmm.
Green is the color that is the most unlikely to want to change the world. Green wants people to just accept the world for what it is. All of the other colors are trying in some way to change something about the world, be it like establish like order in society or like go against our nature and like strive for yourself in the case of black, or like try to like discover everything and uncover all the hidden secrets and take away the mystery that the world has to offer in the case of blue. Green just is convinced that like the world, and when we talk about the world, we're usually more talking about nature.
I was literally just thinking that. I was about to cut in and be like, when we talk about the world, we don't mean fucking society, because I hate that crap.
And that's the thing, is that white is more the color of like structured society. Green is like the natural order. Mm-hmm. Green cares about nature. Green, like, I mean, it makes sense, like, you know, you associate green kind of naturally with like plants and mm-hmm. like nature and things like that. That's what it's connected to. Green is convinced that the natural world already got everything right, and that most of our problems come from us trying to change the world and change nature, to regulate nature or take advantage of nature instead of trying to coexist with nature. Mm-hmm. Green.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, it's very much you. Green is the color of nature, but it's also the color of interdependence. It sees the natural order as a thing of beauty and has all the answers to life's problems. Obeying the natural order alone, in Green's mind, is the best way to exist, and Green favors a simplistic method of like living in harmony with the rest of the world. Green tends to, because of that, be perceived as like a little bit pacifistic. They kind of are just like, yeah, like there's bad shit going on in the world, but like, I mean, like give it a couple thousand years and we're all going to be dust and bones anyway, so it doesn't matter. Like as long as like the real problem for green is like people who are like destroying nature, because that's going to ruin it for everybody. But if people like, oh, there's like green tends to be the color that like doesn't worry that much about like war or social problems. That's not always true, but it tends to be true because they just kind of see it as like, you know, we've only existed.
It's just humans doing humans. Like, let them fight it out and eventually it'll stop.
Right. Yeah. It tends.
And also, what am I supposed to do? I'm one person.
Right.
You want me to go out on the battlefield and stop the fucking war?
Right.
Sure, I'll get on that. Yeah. I'm gonna go lay down.
It's so funny. You have green perspective and red sass. It's very good. But despite getting kind of like a lot of flack for being a little too pacifistic and a little too like, I guess, like sedentary when it comes to dealing with big issues, if green also has that sort of like wild ferocity to it. If green is backed into a corner and feels threatened, it will bare its teeth, and it's the first one to like smash something down that threatens it and the things that it cares about. Green tends to be very, very attached to tradition. But not so much like societal tradition. It's more like, oh, like me and like my family and friends always do this thing every year, so I want to do this thing every year because like that thing, like it brings us all closer together and it makes us feel good. And like green relies on that sort of like natural intrinsic harmony as opposed to like a structural harmony like white. And green also is the one that has a very strong attachment to family. People who are very green line tend to be very, very like close with their family and like want to like spend a lot of time with their family. They may like the idea of like building their own family in the future because they want to kind of like pass down that bounty of like the natural world to like the next generation, like see the next generation grow. They want to like leave their mark on the world.
Right.
Green thinks that if everyone just like sat back and understood the bigger picture of things and didn't get so caught up in the minute details of their life, if they just chilled, then everything would be better and all the problems would be solved. Green is literally the color of I am simply vibing. They just want like I just want to sit on my back porch and drink a beer and feed my John Mulaney. There we go. Exactly. So those are, in a broad philosophical sense, the 5 colors. Like I said, people can be multicolored. You can kind of like share different aspects and traits of those. Before we get into that, though, just based on what we've been talking about, like about each of those colors, I want to do like a fun little activity.
Okay.
All right, so just like brainstorm for a little bit. Like think about like maybe people that we know, maybe like fictional characters from the things we've seen, and like just throw people out there.
Okay.
And I will try to predict their color or colors and explain why I think that.
Okay.
And to give you a sense of like how you would use this philosophy as a way to kind of like psychograph people.
How many are we gonna do?
We'll just start with we'll do 2 for right now, and then I'll go into like multicolors, and then we can do some more afterwards. Once we have like a better idea of what like those combinations stand for. This is just like to give an example of like how.
I'm trying to think of like something almost everybody would know.
Okay.
Do like Percy. Don't do Percy.
Our cat. Yeah. He's He's a green red. He's just like you. He's like he's a big he's just a big baby. If he wants to be cuddled, but then if you cuddle him too much, then he's like, I don't want to talk to you. Get away from me. He wants to just be left alone to do his own thing. But God forbid you tell him he can't go a place because that's the end of the world. He's just gonna cry and scratch at the door. And he also has he's just like
very impulsive.
Yeah, very impulsive. Yeah, the red aspect of Percy is just like. I'm like, oh, I see a big wad of sharp plastic on the floor.
But I desire to eat.
I need to put that in my mouth. That is the only thing I can think about. I will jam that down my throat. If you don't stop me, I will swallow it.
And please don't stop me.
Yeah, I need to eat it. Yeah, plastic is just the forbidden Cape Cod chip to Percy. Even if it kills him, he doesn't care. He lived. We already did you, buddy. Relax.
Yeah, I already got you, Percy. How about do Brandon? Most of the people that are following us right now know my brother.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Hannah's brother Brandon, he's a musician.
Mm-hmm.
That's I'm kind of getting a sense of hobbies. He's a musician, likes video games. He likes to sleep a lot. He likes manga.
Mm-hmm.
You would say that
he consumes.
He do be snacking though.
Not even just snacking, books, anime, video games, consume.
Yes.
He's like a black hole. He'll tell me to get a video game, and I'll be like, I don't know, I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna waste my time buying it and downloading it and keeping it and having it because I'm not gonna play it. I don't care. And he's like, but it's free, so I have it.
Yeah,
and also all these other games are free, so I have those, and also play them because they're free.
Have I ever played them? Maybe not. I might someday, but it was free.
Which is perfectly fine. That's a good trait for him to sure you do your thing. But I'm like,
yeah, it's his hobby. Exactly.
I don't want it, and he's just like, but it's good, and also it's free.
Yeah, it costs $0. Why wouldn't you Why would you not want to take something that costs $0?
Yeah,
it's a free thing. He's like, is he the kind of kid that you go to the mall and they have free samples? He's like, I don't even know if I like that, but I'm taking it.
I'm not sure because we haven't gone to the store together in a really long time.
Oh, okay.
But most of my siblings are the taking the samples kind of person. I'm the one that stands near the cart and wait for them to get the samples, and they bring it to me, and they're like, I got you a sample too because I know you don't like to go near people.
Yeah, so it's like a hard probably.
A hard probably of what?
On him being I gotta go get all the samples.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, to me that screams red.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much the kind of person that he has interests that once those interests end up in his frame of vision, he's just that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
He tends to maybe hyper focus on things when he's really excited about them. He gets very passionate and animated about things that he enjoys, and he also gets very passionate and animated about things he doesn't enjoy.
Mm-hmm. How me and him had a fight over a meme once.
Oh my god, yeah, I remember that. Was that that was the version of the Bill Hart song?
Yeah, on TikTok? I just did a bad thing.
Yeah, but then they did the overdub.
They have the TikTok one where it sounds awful, but it's a guy that's just did a good thing.
Yeah.
And I'm I don't like it, but it's not the worst thing I've ever heard. I'd way prefer to not hear it. And he's like, oh, I hate that thing. And I was like, I kind of like the one that took the D&D spin. And it was just did a neutral thing. Yeah, but it actually sounds kind of good because they had a band do it and they kept the audio clean and they aren't going.
Yeah, it wasn't just a choppy random TikTok audio. It was a real
that somebody just random sang. Someone professional or professional air quotes sang it in a setting that they could keep the audio nice and they obviously knew how to sing.
Right.
I was I kind of like that one, especially because people use it for D&D memes.
Right.
So
that makes it even better. It's a personal touch.
Yeah, so it makes it funny to me. Right. It's beautiful to me. And but Brandon was like, no, they're all bad. I hate them. They all suck. They all suck. I don't care what you think. They're bad. They're bad. They're bad. And I was in your opinion. And he's like, no, it's bad. I'm in your opinion.
Yeah, right.
And
I remember that. That was heated.
We got into a fight.
Yeah. It was really good. Being on the outskirts of that, it was hilarious. I mean, and that's just me liking to psychoanalyze literally everything.
Baby's just here for the drama.
I'm in it for the drama, absolutely. Um, but yeah, that's like so inherently a Red trait. I think that's probably like the biggest part of him. As for the others, like I think he's so Red that the idea that he like is any of the enemy colors is like I don't think Red's enemies are white in the sense that Red values freedom and white values order.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's so attached to the idea of being free to do what he enjoys that the idea of like following like structure or order, he's like, nah, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think white is an aspect of him at all. And then blue is like blue embodies like patience, whereas Red embodies impulse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's much more willing to like follow his impulses and his passion than he is to sit back and be like, well, should I do that? He's the kind of person who's just like, of course I'm going to do it, because like my heart says yes, so I do it. Yeah. So
is he mono Red then?
I'm kind of thinking about it. There's like elements of green to him, like in a much more like simplistic, like not like the broad perspective of like, I mean, like he cares about his family.
Mm-hmm.
He values just kind of, he just
that
likes...
time Dad had his heart attack because of I don't know why he had a heart attack and they had to go to the hospital, and then Brandon started like making dinner for like 2 weeks straight.
Oh yeah, he just became like top chef, healthy foods.
Heart healthy food.
Yeah, he was like he was big on the heart healthy food for a while. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that like I think you could define him as like he is very much like he just likes to vibe.
Yeah.
Like he just wants to live his life and do his thing.
Yeah.
I think it's like Red would be the kind of person who he's like okay, like if he was mono Red, he'd be like, okay, cool, like I did the thing I like. Now I'm gonna go like do a bike ride, and then I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna like go around like red a mono Red aligned person would be like Brandon if Brandon didn't sleep, if he was just going 100% all the time. But he he has very active periods of like I am doing my thing, like I am alive, I am like living my life, and then we hit a certain point and then it's like and now I am asleep and I disappear from the world and I go to bed forever.
Well, he also really cares about his like friends.
Sure, yeah, he has a close knit, like almost like a found family,
yeah,
like people that are like very close to him that he.
Well, him and Victor, for instance, they were babies, and Victor's like always here. I remember like even just a year, like before the quarantine, like even just a year or two ago, Victor was here like almost every single day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is kind of the whole reason he ended up joining one of our campaigns in the first place, is because we all like Victor, but Victor's already almost always here. So like, if Brandon's gonna be in the campaign, Victor might as well be in the campaign too.
Well,
teach him how to play D&D.
That's how we got him into D&D. Yeah. That was great. Yeah, so I think I'd probably say he's red green.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't gloss over black, but I don't think that's him. I don't think he's the kind of person who's just
I glossed over black. I didn't think
I don't think he's the kind of person that's like, fuck you, I got mine. Like I think he just wants to do his thing. And he just wants to do his thing and then nap and really not be bothered. Right. Unless he feels like coming to talk.
Yeah. Then he wants to talk about what he wants to talk about.
Exactly.
Very, very passionately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, but he also really likes the ferrets and stuff, and like Percy.
Yeah, he has a close connection to animals too. Absolutely.
So yeah, red,
which is a green trait. Yeah, I think he's red and green. He's very much like you. I think that's why the two of you are like so close.
Yeah.
Because like you have very similar ways of looking at the world. Okay.
Let's see a second one.
Yeah, let's grab a second one before we go and talk about, because like we said, he's red green. So like that's an insight into how the colors like mesh into a person. There are traits of him that are probably like a white trait or a black trait or a blue trait, but the core of his personality and what motivates him are the red and green aspects of like existence, I suppose.
And it's not that if you're primarily these two colors, you can't have motivations like in single moments of other colors either. Of
course, absolutely.
Like, I woke Brandon up from sleeping because Percy caught a bird and he brought it in the house and he released it into the downstairs.
Yeah.
So it was like really early. It was like 6 a.m. And I started chasing around the bird because I wanted to get it outside before the cats killed it. And it went into Brandon's room and he was really down to help me for the first few minutes. But once the bird started disappearing and he just wanted to sleep, he goes, fuck this bird. I don't care. Like, he, like, started, like, moving furniture really hard and, like, just, like, he's like, I just don't want it in my room. And it's like, okay. Like, you're gonna kill the bird. Like, just calm down.
Yeah. That's super red. You know?
Well, also, it's, I guess I think of it as almost kind of a black trait because
sure.
at that point, he didn't care if he killed the bird. He didn't care if I was angry. He wanted to sleep and he wanted it now, so bird needs to get the fuck out of my room.
Yeah. Yeah, there's aspects of black to that. Yeah, I would say so.
But also, it doesn't happen often, so I wouldn't say Brennan's a very...
Yeah, it's like a in individual.
He
moments.
was tired, but it was sleepy.
Yeah, when you're tired, sometimes
if you get between the bear and its sleep cycle, man.
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, one more little example.
One more character.
That was close to monocolor though. There's not a lot of monocolored people. People tend to be a little bit more like nuanced or imbalanced depending on your perspective.
That's the thing is I want to pick someone that I don't think is going to be inherently red or green, but like that's like all my friends.
Well, yeah. yeah, that's very true.
Fuck.
Pick a fictional character.
Pick a fictional character.
Yeah.
What have I been watching? God damn it! They're all red though. They're all red and green.
Let's see. What's like one of our favorite like mutual franchises that a lot of people also watch? Pick like an Avatar: The Last Airbender character.
What about?
Don't pick Aang.
What about?
'Cause he's red green.
do Sokka then.
Sokka. Oh, okay. Well, okay. He's probably red too. But maybe less so. Okay. Here's a great example.
Okay.
So. Remember how we talked about how like blue is very much the color of like self-perfecting and it wants to know everything and it wants to understand everything and it's very like cerebral and knowledgeable.
Uh-huh.
Just because you're interested in self-perfection and like knowledgeable and like devoted to the concept of knowledge doesn't mean you have to be quote intelligent unquote. And Sokka is a phenomenal example of that.
You don't have to be smart to want to know things.
Right, exactly. Sokka is like
even though Sokka is very smart.
He's brilliant.
He's just not smart in the way where like you're gonna do math.
Yeah. He's not book smart, which is a lot of time blue gets stereotyped as like you have to be bookish to be blue. That's not true. Sokka is very much the kind of person who, like, despite the fact, and for those of you who haven't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, for the love of God, watch it. Like, treat
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix right now. Legend of Korra is coming out in, like, August. I think they just announced. Like, just watch it. It's so good.
It's very good. Korra is actually very thematically appropriate for today's America.
Oh, absolutely. We can do a whole thing on that, too, if we want to.
Maybe we'll just talk about it, Avatar in one of these episodes.
Yeah, there you go. That's a big mutual interest of ours. But yeah, so Sokka, I would say, like, at his core, he's a very, like, blue aligned character because, like, even knowing that, like, all of his friends are, like, basically superhumans with magical elemental powers, and he's, like, a dude with a weird sword and a boomerang.
Well, he didn't have the sword originally. That was part of his trying to improve himself.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He was pretty much just, like, a dude who knew how to hit stuff pretty okay. And he didn't really have a lot of great leadership skills, but Sokka is defined by how hard he tried to do the best that he could with what he had. And, like, he's also the kind of person, like, you can see by his growth as a character, like, how in the very early seasons, especially, like really early, I think it's, like, episode 3, when they meet the Kyoshi warriors, and he has that whole phase of being like, oh, like, girls can't beat me in a fight, like, I'm a big, strong macho man, yeah, like, girls can't beat me, but like, blue tends to be a color that, like, when their deeply held beliefs are challenged by contrary evidence, blue is most likely to change their opinion because to them, their perception of something can always change. Right. They can always, part of always wanting to improve yourself is accepting when you were not perfect before and learning how to become better from it. And so he grew from like a character that was very sexist, held very like old fashioned, old tradition beliefs,
Right.
and turned into a character who like had a lot of respect for people who were different than him and who had different life experiences than him, and learned a lot from those people, because he held those beliefs without any evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And once he saw the evidence, he was very willing to change his belief, because to a blue aligned person, evidence speaks louder than feeling.
Right.
Um, I think because of that, like I would define him as a very blue character. As for the other colors, it's a little harder. He's not black aligned.
No.
I don't think like he can be selfish. He can definitely be selfish.
But they're also teenagers, so.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is it like you also have to keep in mind the perspective of like where they are in their lives too, because like I mean, just teenagers be dumb sometimes. No offense to the
Well, I
teenagers.
mean, they don't have fully developed brains. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's like the core aspect of him. I almost want to say his second color is white. But for a little bit of a different reason. Yeah, I know, like that seems so weird to you, but like I mean, look at where he's coming from in terms of like when you meet him at the Northern Water Tribe. He's like, I am the guy who is responsible for protecting my tribe. Like I'm the man of the tribe. Like,
but that's because his dad told him to be.
Right.
Because he went off on his own like war mission or
Yeah.
whatever. You could like tape that down as like a family tradition that he was passed down.
Well,
so
sure.
He's trying to take responsibility for it.
It could be, but I don't necessarily think it is in this case. He wasn't doing it just because he's like, you know, like Dad did it, and so now I'm gonna do it too.
Dad told him to.
Right.
He went on the mission and he gave him that.
Just because your family tells you to do something doesn't mean it's green. Green has an attachment to the family and like feels strongly about family bonds, but it's more about the motivations of what you like, why you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
He wanted to be like the man of his tribe because he wanted to be someone that other people could look up to. He wanted to protect the people that he cared about. He wanted to like be a leader of men. He wanted to like showcase strength and like bring like he wanted to bring his people peace and safety. And he was willing to like, despite his kind of technical inability, especially early on, he was not a particularly great fighter.
He was young.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like he was willing to put himself in danger, like throw himself headlong into danger because he felt that he had a responsibility to his people. And that could be a green trait or it could be a white trait. I would argue that it's more white in this case. It's more about like bringing peace and security to his people than like.
Well, I'm trying to find other things that might be able to back that up one way or the other. Like, because you could figure it out by looking at his other motivations and why he does things later on.
Yeah.
Like, is he one to like pull off crimes? Like, has he done like any of their little like schemes?
Yeah, he pulled grifts with Toph and stuff. He never was like the one doing it, but like he was always like, yeah, we got to make money.
God, what
he did that in like season 3, I think, right?
He like disguised himself as Aang's dad to like trick the Fire Nation.
Oh yeah, or no, was these? Oh yeah, when he was at school in the Fire Nation. Yeah,
his name was oh God, I can't remember. His last name was Fire. It was stupid.
Yeah, it was like Jin Fire or
something like that.
But yeah,
I don't know.
I think that like I would argue that like the military leader, like the warrior hero archetype, is a very white aligned archetype. It tends to be perceived that way. in a lot of like a lot of
A
characters that
tribal
fall.
warrior is normally a white archetype?
Well, just because you're a member of a tribe doesn't mean that you aren't white aligned. It's like he ends up on a major battlefield and like tries to fit neatly into the role of the hero. Um, not the main character, because he's kind of accepted that he isn't the main character, but he wants to be like the hero. He wants to be someone that like people can look up to and they see him as like a leader of men and like someone that they can respect and rely on. And those tend to be very like white, like military minded white traits.
Right.
I think he's a very weird expression of blue white, because like you tend to see blue white like they can be characters like Sokka, but they can also be like the stuffy legal type. And that's the thing, is that like these two color combinations are very like nothing's set in stone. There's very different expressions like good, bad, like moral, amoral elements of all of these colors, and like it's really just a matter of like what like it's not color is not about what you are doing, or it's about
it's why you do it.
Yeah, it's the motivation, and like Sokka works hard to improve himself because ultimately he wants to be someone that people can look up to, and they see him as like a figure of strength and a leader.
Okay.
And that's a trait that's very much like the constant desire for self-improvement and the desire to be loved and respected by his peers and his community are very blue and white traits.
Okay.
So I think he's probably that. Okay. Which is interesting because that would make him like kind of like the direct opposite of Aang in a lot of ways, which I think that was kind of on purpose. Like they're kind of foils of each other because like they get along with each other,
right.
And like colors can get along with each other because they can find common ground. Like red, like the more like chaotic, like free spirited aspects of Aang may sometimes frustrate Sokka. But sometimes he goes along with it because he's still friends with him. And like blue and white are also both allies of green. So like there's like a whole part of Aang that I think that Sokka looks at and he's like, okay, like I get where this guy's coming from. Like he just kind of wants to nap and chill. I also don't think he's green because he's so bad with animals.
Well, it's not for any lack of trying.
Right, he tries, but like he doesn't have it.
Animals don't like him. He likes animals.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I suppose you're right. I think there's elements of green to him, but like I said, green is an ally of blue and white, so I think that's where that comes from.
Okay.
Or wait, sorry, I'm actually wrong. It's not an ally of blue at all. It's an ally of white.
Yeah,
but it's not an ally of blue. Yeah, because like blue and green, their conflict is like the whole nature versus nurture thing. Because you'll find that ally colors have common ground and enemy colors have conflicts where like they see the world in a very different way. Okay, so that's my perspective. If any of you who are listening think I'm wrong, please roast me in the comments.
Well, I'll roast you in the comments. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. You're welcome to. You're always welcome to roast me in the comments. Getting down to the bulk of like where the two colors kind of connect. Oh, actually, before we do that, I want to give like a couple of more little like examples of like characters from like modern fiction that fall into like the monocolor archetype.
Okay.
Examples of characters that are white aligned. Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. If any of you watch Game of Thrones, very white aligned character. Very like the knightly ideal. Like has like there are people that she like seeks to fight for, and she wants to like
be a proper knight.
Yeah, like and she strives to like meet this ideal of knighthood and chivalry, despite like a lot of people in that universe telling her that like she can't do that. That's very much like her goal, and she's willing to like sacrifice a lot for it. That's a very white trait. Superman is a great example. He's like the Boy Scout. Like that's a white archetype.
Is Superman the one that won't kill? I mean, I know who Superman is.
Right.
Is he the one that's always depicted as like he will not kill anybody? Even,
yeah.
Or is that Batman?
Oh, well, Batman also, like, they both won't kill anyone. Batman just, like, doesn't, because he
Well,
has some sort of, like, long-winded moral code about it, but Superman is just like, I don't kill because, like, I'm the good guy,
well,
and the
I
good
know
guy
that
doesn't
one of
kill.
them will and one of them won't.
I feel like,
Like, I feel like maybe I was wrong, and Superman does, but under, like, only excruciating, like, consequences, but he'll do it.
well, yeah, I mean, like, he did that in Man of Steel, like, the movie that came out, like,
I never watched that movie.
oh, yeah.
I'm talking about
But I think a lot of
comics.
people were like, I think a lot of people, like, made a big deal out of that because that's not a thing he normally does. But I'm also pretty sure Batman doesn't kill.
No, Batman I'm talking about comic books.
Right. I think I think it's both of them. I
Um,
don't think either of them like kill their. I think it's why their villains keep coming back because I
well,
don't think they ever die.
I know Batman won't, and I got very frustrated with him at a point because I'm like, my God, if you have such fucking awful villains,
Mm-hmm.
just kill them. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Stop putting them in jail and being like, maybe that'll hold you for like the next 5 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
fuck off. You're not helping anyone.
It's red. You're very red. That's such a red trait. Um. But yeah, they both kind of like. I think Batman has elements of white to him too as well.
Uh-huh.
But that trait kind of like that, like the Boy Scout who like always does like the do good right thing, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like the big quintessential hero. That's a very white trait. Um, for blue characters, um, uh, uh, Spock from Star Trek, like
Yeah.
the very cerebral, very like scholarly type character. Like Merlin the Wizard, like the like
I know Merlin the Wizard.
Arthurian Merlin. What?
I know Merlin the Wizard.
Right? Yeah. He very blue aligned. Pretty much like 90% of people from the Ravenclaw house in Harry Potter, they're all very blue. Um, that's kind of like a big trait for that. For black aligned characters, going back to um, uh, like here, I actually have a good example of like a villain
Uh-huh.
that's black aligned and a hero.
Okay.
Um, or not hero, but like a sympathetic black aligned character, I guess, because I don't know if I'd really call them a hero. Um, Game of Thrones black aligned villain, Cersei Lannister.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Like she does not care who she has to step on to get what she needs. She will do it,
Mm-hmm.
and she's ruthless in her like grasps at power. She's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that
Really backfires on her though.
yeah, she queen over the ashes, I guess, in a lot of ways. Yeah, so usually you'll find in a lot of like modern media and like older media too, the characters that are black aligned villains,
Mm-hmm.
or any villain in general, but mostly black aligned villains, they succeed for a while by doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and then it all explodes in their face, and that's kind of their undoing. There is a limit to how much you can achieve by screwing over other people before it just blows up in your face and destroys you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a common trope. An example of a sympathetic black aligned character, Star Wars, Han Solo.
Oh.
Han Solo is, especially at first when like they first meet him in episode 4, he is only interested in what he can get out of the deal. If he can find a way to like weasel himself out of Jabba's debt, or like disappear off the map for a little while so that bounty hunters don't come after him, so he can kind of just like live his life for a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. He's also very red because he's a very strong hedonist and he follows his guts a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a sympathetic black aligned character as well. In terms of like red characters, I got here. You're like your spiritual double on the animated screen. Miss Toph Beifong.
Ooh.
Absolutely 100% a red aligned character. There is no way that you are going to convince Toph to do anything other than what she wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
She follows her heart. She follows her gut. She wants to be left alone. Don't bother her. Let her live her life.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very red.
You're pretty
trait.
much fucked unless she already cares about you.
Yeah, exactly. Another good example, like this is one that like I don't really know a lot about because I didn't pay a ton of attention to Shakespeare really, because I'm not a big like play person, but like both Romeo and Juliet are both red aligned. Like
Oh,
they're two dumb teenagers that fell in love, and their love was so important to them that they killed themselves. Like this, like that whole
very
that didn't
dramatic.
that whole play last like it was like 5 days or something. Like they saw each other at a party, and they were like, that's my person, and then they like did some like weird like I'm gonna hang out outside your window and like yell at you from a balcony, but like I gotta be real quiet about it because our parents can't know. And then like I think at one point he like and then Romeo like got all worked up, and I think he did he kill a dude? I think he killed a dude,
He
and then he
killed
was
the
like,
dude, and
yeah,
then they made a plan that or sh- Juliet, without telling Romeo, made a plan that she was gonna fake her own death, and then he believed it so hard.
yeah. He'll just go along with it. Like he's obviously got this. Like he's just gonna. I don't need to like take the time to explain it to him because like it's
Yeah,
gonna work. Because my heart says this is how it's destined to be. So it's gonna work. Like we'll fucking go with
but
it.
then he got so upset that she was dead. I don't even know if he really
I think
checked her.
oh no, yeah, I don't think he like
He's
checked
just
her
like, she's
pulse,
dead, and he like
and then
stabbed himself in the chest and died for real. And then she woke up, and she's like, oh no, he's dead, and then killed him, or killed herself. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, so they were basically like they're two people who like the very concept of taking 5 seconds to think about your actions is so foreign to them that they just like they don't know it's a possibility. That they're like very archetypal red characters. They would like much rather just like fall in love and then explode than like think about any of their
but
actions.
maybe just running away.
Yeah, right. Or just maybe just like just leaving. Like yeah, that's a great example. Um, and then examples of like green characters. Green is also kind of a weird one because green tends to get like archetyped oddly.
Okay,
Like
Caduceus Clay.
Caduceus Clay from Critical Role is a great. I think he's. I. It's so weird because like every every fiber of my being wants to say that he's green black aligned.
He's not selfish or
Right.
like
Because so
taking advantage of anyone or
yeah,
anything like that.
exactly. In the card game in Magic the Gathering, like
Hmm.
black magic is associated with like death and necromancy, and he's like a grave cleric.
Well, the thing
So
is,
my brain is just like, oh yeah, he has to be, but
he's
he's
not
really not. He's
because he's
very
appreciating the cycle of life.
yes.
He's not making things decay or growing mushrooms or like any of that because he wants like to idolize death. He's just like appreciating it.
Yeah, he understands that like death is a natural part of life, and he's like tries to seek the beauty in that cycle.
Hmm.
He's not like selfish or self-centered. He's
My God, I don't think he has a mean bone in his
exactly
body. He like was they're in the middle of a situation and he didn't agree with it,
sure.
and he was like, "Guys, this is getting a little bit crazy. I mean, I don't want to raise my voice, and I'm sorry that I did, but." And
And
it's
he's like
like,
at that
dude, you
volume.
did, yeah. And he was at that volume, and it's like, dude,
Mhm.
you didn't.
Yeah, he's like the definition of just simply vibing, and I think
Yeah.
that makes him very inherently green. Yeah, that's a great example. Another good example of a green character. I probably Yoda.
Yoda.
Maybe. I don't know.
Baby
Like a
Yoda.
lot of people say Yoda. I don't know if I feel that way. I think he's like definitely multicolored.
Uh huh.
A lot of people also are like, oh yeah, like Wolverine from X-Men is green. He's so red green, it's not funny. But they're like, yeah, he's green. I'm like, just because he like has animal instincts and sharp claws doesn't mean he's like just because he's kind of an animal doesn't mean
He's
he's
green.
green. He is, but he's not just that. And people use him as an example of just that. And I don't necessarily agree with that. But yeah, so that's like the broad spectrum of it. But each of the colors kind of like where they overlap tends to define like regular people. And what's
Ooh.
up?
Maybe down below, if because especially because it's a very long-winded topic. It's really hard to explain.
Yes.
Um.
It's very nuanced too. It's something that I've like done a lot of research on, which is why I like can go off the cuff about it a little bit, but it's like it's deep.
Well, that and the only reason that I know as much as I do is because I've listened to Ken talk about it for the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
and like accrued information literally over 5 to 6 years about this,
Right.
and I still get shit wrong sometimes.
Oh, me too.
So like, if you guys are sitting there trying to figure out your color alignment, maybe we should link below the color alignment quiz.
Oh yes. This is something that like I was kind of thinking about. Like maybe we might do it on
Yeah,
a
maybe
podcast.
we can take
We can
it.
take, but like I think yeah, there's a quiz. Basically it gives you a bunch of like just like keywords, and then you rank on a scale of like it's words and not numbers, but it's basically a scale of 1 to 5. And you rank like how much you think that word or phrase defines you. You kind of get, it's very open-ended, you get to kind of determine what define means, but
Hmm.
like you on a scale of 1 to 5 decide how much the term that flashes on screen defines you,
Or you associate with it.
yeah, or how much you associate with that term or phrase. You can pick between 50 questions, which would be 50 words or phrases, or 175.
Like, just do the long one.
Yeah, the long one, it's not actually that long of a quiz. It takes like a couple of seconds for each one of them. And like the smaller one will give you a snapshot of like how you are right now. The bigger one like kind of broadly determines you. And it was made on like, it was like a Heroku app like quiz. I will link it and give credit down below. In the doobly doo, is that what
Some people say the doobly doo, some people call it the towel section, some people call it just the comments. Well, we're gonna put it down in our description or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, we're gonna put it in there so you guys can like link into the quiz, and if you're interested in the topic and you want to kind of like add that to your repertoire of psychographic profiles that you do for yourself,
Lots of
I
things.
highly recommend the 175 question one, because that one, like, it's gonna be almost like taking a Myers-Briggs test level of like reading you more than you thought.
The more information you're able to give the quiz, the better it can read you. So just give it as much as you can, and it'll give you a better reading. And it's been pretty darn accurate.
Yeah, honestly, like I think it read both of us pretty well the last time that we took it. Um, also, oh yeah, you know what? While we're at it, since I have a lot of experience with these topics and I can kind of analyze them really well, if you're like looking at your results and you're like, I don't know what the hell this means, like send it in the comments. I'll reply and I'll be like, hey, so like this probably means is this true about you? Is this true about you? Like I'll kind of like read into it a little bit more for you and break it down if it's something that you're like, I don't really like know what's going on here.
Well, especially because I've actually had my friend Kate give the quiz to like take the quiz,
Oh
and
yes.
then I had her give it to her brother, and um she handed me his results, and I was like, no wonder.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, that is why your brother acts the way he does, and that is why any of the frustrations or like things that you've told me he does or like the way he acts, I get it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, his motivations are clear now, I
Yeah.
understand.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we have been saying, it's a good like predictor of motivation and what motivates you to do the things that you do. Okay. So I guess going into like, I'm gonna do like a little snapshot of each of the 10 two-color combinations and like
Okay.
kind of where they connect. I'll talk about whether they are ally or enemy colors, and then we'll kind of like figure out from there what um like maybe we'll do a couple more characters and like see if we can find other people that fall into that. So starting off, we have the combination of red and white. Like we had said a little bit earlier when we were talking about it, red and white are enemy colors. Red is the color that seeks freedom. White is the color that seeks order. So the idea of the two of them working together is like kind of weird. Um, but here's, I'm using a website actually called Typology Central, and there was a post from like back in 2012, a commenter named Savage Idealist, and he like kind of broke each of these down. So I'm kind of using that as like my framework, and then I'll explain a little bit of like what that commenter was saying.
Okay.
But red and white, their goals, you tend to combine aspects of both colors into a single philosophy that meshes at least partly with both ideals.
Mm-hmm.
Red is the color of action. white is the color of peace.
Uh-huh.
So when you put the two of those together, red-white is the color combination of peacekeeping. They believe more strongly in like we can achieve peace, but we're not going to be able to achieve peace unless we fight against those who would threaten peace.
Mm-hmm.
Red white is a great color combination for um, honestly, like a lot of people who are involved in like any form of government protest. I mean, especially relevant now.
Right.
But like government protesting against what is perceived to be like government overreach. If any sort of big organization threatens like the community or people's like sense of peace and safety, red white aligned people are the first ones up on the front lines to be like, we need to destroy it, because if we let it run unchecked, then we won't have peace anymore.
Right.
It's that like that protester battle cry of like no justice, no peace.
Mm-hmm.
That is an inherently red white concept.
Mm-hmm.
If there isn't justice for those who wrong us, then we can't have peace, because then people who wrong us will continue to do so. They feel empowered to harm us. It combines in terms of like some things that red white like can be perceived as character flaws. It combines red's impulse with white's sense of morality, which makes them very quick to judge. They tend to make very like snap judgments of people and like their own deeply held beliefs. If you don't necessarily agree with them, they're the first person to be like, ugh. And like they're usually not that afraid to like make a comment about it or like get in your face about it. Some people are. Depends on how introverted you are, really.
Well, that's the thing too, is actually thinking about it. A lot of the people protesting on either side are probably red-white. Like even the Karens that are out there like protesting abortion, they purely believe that their cause is just, and they're gonna go out there and scream at any little kid or like person on the street that decides that they don't want to, that's not right.
Yeah.
They're like, ew, no, you're wrong. Like,
yeah,
like
so they have a deeply held belief, and they're the first person to be like, you don't agree with me, you're wrong. You like we need to put a stop to that.
But that kind of shows how differently it can reflect. So even the
Mhm.
people that are like, no, you're wrong. People deserve like autonomy of their own bodies, and you're doing the wrong thing. They're also red white. So it's like they're literally out there killing each other.
Right. Yeah, honestly, like, and that's the thing, is that sometimes you'll find that like different ideological sides of the same color combination will slam into each other, especially if they're both very passionate about what they believe in. They can end up on opposite sides and justify it based on like their color alignment.
Right.
The big conflict, the balance or lack thereof in red white people is that concept of order versus chaos. The white aspects of them are very devoted to like order and like following a structure or a set of rules, but the red part of them like wants to ignore those rules when it doesn't feel good. So they're constantly at war with themselves, where they're like a red white person is very much the kind of person who will like do something because they're just like, fuck it, like I want to do that, and then they'll do it, and then they're like, oh man, like wow, I'm a bad person, like I shouldn't have done that, like I'm like they'll be the person who's like they're super gung-ho to go do something, and then they will also feel guilty about it because they're in conflict with their own worldview.
Right.
Because red is so inherently involved with freedom and white so inherently involved with law, vigilante justice tends to be defined as very red-white. That might be where Batman kicks in, honestly, a little bit. And some like basic phrases that I think define red-white as a concept are: I value success and focus, which I work towards through force and zealotry. I hate subterfuge. I hate duplicity. They don't like being lied to. They don't like people who are fake. They like honesty. They like truth. They are very passionate about it. For people who are red-white, completing a project is more important than planning the project. When you get down to it, justice and revenge aren't much different. And unfortunately, violence is sometimes necessary to maintain peace. These are kind of like core tenets of red-white. Hello, Percy, you're back to cry more. Okay, so that's red and white. We'll shift to like the complete polar opposite paradigm and touch on black blue. Now, black and blue are right next to each other. This means they're ally colors. So they tend to like agree with each other and kind of work together with each other to develop a more like core, like a core concept of one part of both of them, like where the two of them overlap. They're very like vehement about that aspect of it. Blue seeks ultimately omniscience. Their goal is to know everything. Black seeks omnipotence. They want to be the best. That leads to the concept of like knowledge is power. The more that I know, the better I am. And also, like, a blue-black aligned person is the kind of person who's like, I want to know all the juicy gossip. I want to know all of your secrets because I want to put them in my back pocket. And if I ever need to use them against you,
I can.
I can. It doesn't mean I'm going to. I just need to have that in case, like, if you're ever going to try to stab me in the back, I need to be able to stab you first.
Right.
Because of that, blue and black also tends to be very, like, it tends to be very fearful. It tends to be like constantly looking around, just making like is this person going to betray me? Is this person going to betray me? When they take it to an extreme, they're very paranoid that everyone else is out to get them.
Right.
Their conflict, not really a conflict, it's more of a balance. It's the conflict of like logic versus amorality. They tend to use amorality as a way to logically explain their not so socially acceptable actions.
They're the kind of people that would like do tests on animals and they're like, well, I mean, as long as in the end we get something safe for people, we don't care what we're doing.
Yeah, like when it comes down to it, like the thing that would have happened, like we discovered something by testing this product, and like now it's going to save a bunch of people's lives. So like, who really cares what happened? Because like the ends justified the means.
Right.
That there's other elements to it depending on what you're doing, but that can be a blue-black trait, absolutely.
Well, I'm not saying that's all blue-black traits. I'm just saying it's something that could be perceived as blue-black.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of like their weaknesses, like we kind of mentioned, blues inaction, their desire to like overthink things before they make a decision, and black's paranoia, the belief that everyone is always out to get them, that turns into like overly elaborate plans and conspiracies and a tendency to just kind of sit and do nothing until someone directly threatens you and then you go out. Blue and black values secrecy and it values adaptability. It likes to be able to kind of pivot on its feet and like react to things that are going on. They don't like incorruptibility. They hate, like, blue and black have a mutual, well, okay, no, it's not a mutual enemy. Black has an enemy in white, and the like really staunch, like white aligned, like just type, and then especially with red, where blue is an enemy of red, those like red white, like we like believe in justice, we fight for the greater good. The uncorruptible type person, they hate that person because it's like if I can't manipulate you, then like what can I do? Like how am I gonna, like, if you decide that I'm your enemy and you're gonna take me down, I can't like bribe you. So what the hell am I gonna do?
Right.
That's a very blue-black perspective.
Maybe get good blue-black.
Blue-black is so their perspective is kind of like sometimes a little bit of lying and cheating is necessary to achieve your goals. In an argument, it's best to keep what you know to yourself at first. Most people can't easily tell who really has the power in a given situation, and if you reveal your hand too early, you may run out of ammo. So they're very much the kind of like hold back and wait and take my opportunity to like slowly pluck the strings.
Right.
They're the manipulator schemer type. Jumping now to green and black. This is another enemy. Their major conflict is kind of between green's like love of nature and the natural world and belief in like just don't bother things and let the world just kind of exists as it is. And black is very much like everyone in the world is out to get you, and you need to defeat it. If you like, you have to be better than it, otherwise it's going to beat you. It's very much like a life versus death, or like a calm harmony versus like active self-improvement kind of conflict. Black wants to be all powerful. Green wants to grow and like be a part of its world and like have an impact on the world in a way that like that works with it.
Right.
So where they kind of meet is like this like sense of unlimited expansion. Someone who's green and black, they're never really satisfied with just kind of like being the best in like their field, whereas a black aligned person might be like, I want to be the CEO of my company, or I want to be like a manager of my company, like that. I want to get to that point, and then it's like, all right, I got here. This is an area of influence. This is a place that I can make better of myself. I'm good here. But the green black is just like, no, I have to be bigger. I have to be better. I have to be like massive. I have to be like, I have to overwhelm. It's almost like a in terms of a nature term, it's like it's more of a parasitic growth. It's uncontrolled, unrestrained, unregulated. Green is all about instinct, whereas black is all about kind of like amorality and ignoring morality. So green black tends to have a very vindictive lack of compassion. They kind of just like I'm not interested in what you have going on, and I also don't really care because I'm doing my thing.
Right.
You do your thing, I do my thing. We can't help but laugh because that poor cat is just like, we're torturing him. He can't go in the garage. It's the end of the world. Yeah, I know. Poor
That's the thing is, I don't even know if they can hear them. I really hope you can hear
Oh my
him.
god, I didn't even think about that. They might not be able to hear Percy. Well, we promise you, he's meowing so loudly.
And very often. It's making me die laughing.
That's the thing is, like, I'm trying to, like, focus my thoughts, and I can't because it just
It's because he can hear us talking, and so he knows we're out here.
Mom,
he
Dad?
really wants to be out here. Okay, sorry, continue. Green
That's
black.
okay. Yeah. So anyway, green black as a combination, they value, like, competition, because competition between people builds the strength of most systems. They tend to believe that power should be wielded by the person who's most comfortable wielding it, and they are very, very attached to the concept of survival of the fittest. Whoever is the strongest deserves to be in charge in a green-black perspective, because, they're the one who can hold on to the power. Green is selfish. Or green-black is selfish, but also instinctive. They're resilient and tenacious at best, and at worst, they're uncontrollable and destructive with no cause.
Kind of like an invasive species.
An invasive species is actually a great example. That was the example I was about to use. Invasive species tend to be very green-black. They're like one with nature, and they're just trying to grow, but their concern isn't growing.
But put them in a place they can thrive, and they just fucking take everything over. They choke out anything else that's there.
Yep, this is mine. Yeah, any kind of like invasive like fungus or like invasive
plants or even birds.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of any in particular, but I know there's a particular kind of like vine that's like invasive to a part of America, and it just chokes out everything else, like bushes, trees. It's just growing and like consuming and like trying to just take everything else out. And it's like, dude, what are you trying to do? Like, you're gonna ruin everything.
Right.
But it don't care. It's a plant.
That's very true. Blue and white are next.
Okay.
These are allies. Blue, like we said, values omniscience, wants to know everything. White values peace. It wants everything to be peaceful and harmonious and everyone get along. Where these two combine, with white-blue, it tends to be stasis. And like stasis meaning like we know everything and we're striving for peace. That is our ultimate goal. So our goal is we want a world where there's no unknown variables. where there's nothing spontaneous that could come out of the blue. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone agrees with each other. Everybody follows the rules, and there's no conflict. They want a world where there's no unknown things that could surprise them and throw off the balance that they've built. This is again on a general philosophical term because like there are very blue-white aligned people that don't necessarily fit this, but this is kind of like the main archetype, like the kind of thing you see in a lot of like the
media.
Like media, like novels or movies or shows or things like that. Blue's focus on logic and white's focus on order leads them to tend to have a sense of like intellectual superiority. Like they think and they're pretty sure they know they're smarter than you.
They're kind of the person in the comment section of every video that's like, well, actually.
Yeah, that's a very white-blue trait. But taken to like a global scale where they're like, no, you don't understand. If everybody listened to me, because I know what I'm talking about, and if everybody listened to me, there wouldn't be any problems.
Right.
When it's taken to its extreme. Their balance and where they agree is like blue's attachment to technology and white's attachment to morality. It's kind of like trying to create like a machine of state. Very political, very politically minded. Government tends to be a very white-blue organization, especially like judicial or legal structures.
Right.
Jeez, Percy. Blue-white is very orderly and rational. They value control, information, and order.
They're Virgos.
Oh my god. Yeah, honestly though. They love hierarchy. They love structure. And they'll do whatever they have, whatever power and knowledge they have at their disposal. They will do whatever they have to do to maintain that hierarchy. Like, that's the natural order. Like, here's the boss. Here's, like, the person under the boss. Here's the workers. Like, that's how it should be. If people start, like, moving out of place, then everything's all out of balance, and that screws it all up, and then, like, it's unpredictable. And if it's unpredictable, then what's going to happen? We don't know. We can't, like, make sure that everyone's going to be okay, because
scary.
It's very scary. Yeah, it's scary. I don't like it. These kinds of people tend to be more like judges and legislators. They tend to be very attached to law, and especially like legal scholars. Like they like the knowledgeable aspect.
Like lawyers.
Yeah, lawyers tend towards white-blue, I think, more than a lot of other people. So next after that is red-blue. I'm going to go through these a little bit more quickly. Just because we're running short on time. But red-blue is, like, blue again, omniscience. Red is all about action, like, go and do your thing. Which means red-blue is, like, insatiably curious. They're enemy colors, so there's, like, kind of this constant back and forth where they're, like, the impulsive red part of them is like, ooh, I gotta do this thing, or like, ooh, I had a cool idea, I want to go follow it. And the blue part of them is like, oh man, but like, did I plan it out enough? Like, what if is it wrong? Like, maybe I screwed something up. Nah, I gotta do it anyway. Like, they're very much like the curious, like, tinkerer, inventor, like archetype person.
It's like what you're talking about with me, how I'm mostly red-green, but I have that bit of blue.
Yeah.
And my blue fights with my red.
A lot.
Yeah,
that conflict plays out in you. Someone who is red and blue tends to like the blue in action in them, where they're like, maybe I should like think about it before I do it. Smashes into red's like short-sighted, like, gotta go, like, gotta do the thing.
It's like, well, I go to leave work, I'm like, you know what, I'll leave 5 minutes early. I did my job, it's done, like, I finished it, it's cool, like, I can just leave a little bit early. And then I go, but are people gonna be mad? Like, my bosses probably aren't gonna like it. Like, no, duh, they don't want me to leave any earlier than I'm supposed to leave. But like, if I leave 5 minutes early, then it's like whatever. And then like eventually something happens at work that I get fed up with, and I'm like, fuck it, I don't care, I'm just leaving. Like, I'll leave now, I don't care, I'll just go.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's that constant battle where like you do feel a sense of anxiety over like, oh well, like should I do that? Is that like the right course of action? It's not like a moral thing because that's not really what you're concerned about.
Right.
You're more about like is this going to negatively impact me?
Right.
But then like in a moment of passion, you're just like, I don't care.
And then I leave,
Yeah.
and then I go to leave, and then it finally calms down, and then the blue takes back over, and they're like, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Oh, yeah, like now I'm at home and I'm like, man, I'm really regretting that.
Like, what if they showed up and like they figured out I was gone and they got pissed, and then tomorrow I'm gonna go in, and then they're gonna be like, you should have left.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you
fuck.
have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Their weaknesses as a red blue person, they tend to have like very extremely short attention spans. They jump around a lot. Because they're like naturally curious and also like constantly fighting with their desire to stay focused on one topic. Like, but something else is just so enticing. They're like, ooh, well, wait, maybe I gotta go over there. But they tend to be very like individualist. They're very free thinkers and they're very creative type of people. So like that's a big strength for red, blue, and red people. There's conflict in some of the ally colors, but it also like there's some really endearing traits. There's endearing traits in all of them.
Right.
Sometimes
even enemies' colors like have interesting little things about them.
Oh, of course. So next up being green white. This is back to an ally again. Green and white is all about harmony and cooperation. It's white's sense of morality and green's sense of interdependence taken to the extreme. Everybody works together in perfect harmony to create this beautiful society. It's very much like your like really stereotypical like hippie commune could be a very like green white. It's like we have all these like nice cottages and like we have like a night like all these row houses on the street and we have like bushes up, different beautiful flowers. We're beautifying
We all
our
take
neighborhood.
care of each other.
Yeah, everyone in the neighborhood works together. We have a neighborhood watch. Like we can, but like also like that kind of a society tends to like you'll find more often than not that group. It's like sometimes they can be like a little bit bougie. They can
You better listen to the HOA or we're gonna call them.
Right, yeah, they tend to be like a little bit slow to react to things. Like if someone in the neighborhood that they really like is like maybe doing something they shouldn't be, they're like, oh, well, like, but they're so nice and they bake cookies for the cook-off that we have every third Sunday of the month. And like, are you sure?
Like, are you sure you want to talk about them stealing your lawn ornaments? Because you're really gonna make everyone kind of upset with them, and they're really cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great. Yeah, like that kind of like like pretty, but with a dagger behind it, kind of archetype. Tends to be very green white. They also like tend to not be super welcoming of diversity. In the sense that like we have a community, and like people who are outside of said community, like we're like a new neighbor moves into a house on the neighborhood, and they like everybody puts their trash cans out on Saturday,
and no one tells them.
Yeah, and they put their trash cans out on Monday, and then the trash cans are just there for like 5 days and just sitting there, and they're kind of an eyesore. And like, oh, we don't really like them. That tends to be like a very like that's a green white trait. In terms of like positive aspects of them, green white is very good at like developing a very strong sense of community. You tend to feel like you're a part of a family if you're with one of these people. The archetypal mom friend that I mentioned a little bit back, they tend to be a very green white person more often
especially if they have a garden.
Especially if they have a garden. Like you're like kind of like earthy hippie friend who always checks on you at parties and like sends you cute cat pictures when they know you're having a bad day and like has a herb garden in their backyard. Like that's a green white person. They're very down to earth, very harmonious, very peaceful, but they can sometimes be a little bit judgmental. For justified or otherwise reasons. It depends on the person, I think. They tend to be very orderly and instinctive. They strongly value group identity. You're looking at like like soccer moms, like
Mm-hmm.
the archetypal soccer mom.
Did you bring orange slices for the kids after the game?
Yeah, green white. At best, green white can be selfless and strong-willed. At worst, they can be unoriginal and kind of hive-mindy.
Mm.
Little Stepford when taken to its natural extreme. Next is black white.
Mm-hmm.
Black's sense of omnipotence, infinite power, unlimited, unrestricted power, and there's a white sense of peace. They are like the ultimate the ultimate elite. They are the kind of person that they want to be in charge of everything and they want to live in luxurious comfort. They're
It's like Donald Trump.
yeah, he's a little red too, but I think that's a great example. Like your average CEO who like if you can go on Google and you can catch them saying some kind of shitty stuff like oh like well it's like it's my money like I worked hard for my money like I deserve to be able to relax like I have 6 beach houses that kind of person they're very black.
I run a company and
I'm a job creator.
yeah.
Like that's my
I
job.
help millions of people, but also like I don't want to give my money to charities because it's my money.
Yeah, I earned it by underpaying my workers. That is very much a black white character archetype. Um, even though black and white are enemies of each other, they also tend to work together really well. In the sense of like
because the black can manipulate the white into being like a guy's.
precisely, and like the white aspect can be used as a shield for the like amorality. It's morality and amorality rolled into one, and that kind of plays itself off as like honor among thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have a sense of honor, but like only
the sense of honor is if you shank someone, we're all shanking you.
yeah, like we're gonna agree that like you do what we need you to do and you don't get hurt, but we're not afraid to hurt you because you know you gotta play by the rules.
Yeah, don't step out of line and you won't get hurt.
The mafia, like
the
Godfather mafia, like the archetypal like movie mafia, very white black.
Like they'll definitely help you out, and they're definitely there for you. But if you don't,
you cross them one time and you're done.
Yeah,
like you gotta like once you're a part of the family, you're a part of the family, whether you like it or not. White black tends to be both orderly and selfish. They act mostly for their own benefit, but they respect and help their community, especially when it helps them.
Mm-hmm.
At their best, they are loyal and dedicated. Black white can be like the family man, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
They're Tywin Lannister, Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Very much like, you know, I care about the Lannister family name. You all need to live up to that name because like we mean something. We stand for something. We're proud. Nobility. That's a very white black archetype. Like I said, at best they're loyal and dedicated to something. At worst, they're elitist and very shrewd.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 3 more. First is green red. We've talked a little bit about this one, so we won't go over it too much.
Now go over it for the rest of the time we have.
Oh my god, yeah, of course. Red's desire for action and green's desire to grow along with the world. Well, when you're trying to grow and someone stops you from doing so or stands in your way, it's a call to action.
Mm-hmm.
Red green is the color of revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Red green is the color that burns for revenge and fights for their survival against anyone who is perceived to be threatening their survival and the survival of their loved ones. They tend to be anarchistic. Mm-hmm. They hate artificial rules, structures, and restrictions, especially when they don't make sense to them. They value defiance in other people and unpredictability. They like it when people are kind of like crazy and get on their stay on their toes. And they like it when people stand up to like structures, especially when those structures aren't really just.
Like when those people tore down those like Confederate statues, like Mwah, chef's
Yeah,
kiss.
it's just like, I love that. Like, mwah, beautiful. Yeah, red,
Put
green.
Pokemon statues up. Put
Yep.
them.
Yeah, red, green loves that. They're like, yeah. It's like, that's the thing is that, like, we could sit here and we could pass laws all day about what you should and shouldn't do. The best way to
Or we
solve a
just
problem
do
is
it.
just smash the problem.
Yeah.
You smash the problem, there's no more problem.
Feels like home.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Um, uh, red and green are mutual enemies of blue.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, they hate overanalysis. If you sit there and you overanalyze things, you don't take action when you need to take action. They care more about motivations of basic needs, like food and shelter. Those are the only things that, like, on the core level, that's what matters. You gotta have those, and then everything else is just kind of extraneous. Like, it's just kind of like, it's a want. It's not a need. So red green is very much willing to kind of like tear down any structures, even if it's like, oh, but like that's like an important thing. It's like, I don't care. Like, it's dumb, and it's like
it's important.
It's
to you.
Yeah, it's important to
I
you,
guess.
but it also is making people's lives harder. So like, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I have a place to sleep and a place to eat, then I don't care. Red and green place a high value on instinctual behavior, don't like being bound by artificial laws, and they hate deception. Though, red does enjoy playing a good trick every now and then.
Well, yeah, because tricks isn't deception.
Yeah, exactly.
Tricks are tricks.
Yeah. They like...
Little joke,
They
that's
like
cool.
pranks.
Little
Pranks are fun.
Fine.
They're whimsical. They're heartfelt.
You want to pretend to be my friend for 5 years and stab me in the back? Fuck you, dude.
Yeah, they hate that. Absolutely.
But also, all laws are artificial laws.
That's true. I may have misspoke. You're so red-green, it's funny. So, second to last, we have green and blue.
Mm-hmm.
Again, these are enemy colors. It's the nature versus nurture conflict playing out in one person. What do you get when you take someone who cares about technology and someone who cares about, like, the natural world? Yeah, and you jam those together. It's someone who thinks nature's great. We can learn a lot from nature, but we can also make it better. To like an extreme degree, they're the kind of person who's like, what would happen if we like genetically modified a bunch of weird shit? Like, what if I could
It's the people that made the fucking T-Rex come back to life.
Yeah, when we were reading that article about, like, they made, like, this is apparently a thing. I don't know, look it up. I don't know if, like, how. I read an article about it, like, a couple days ago. But basically, like, they were able to construct a viable T-Rex embryo from chicken DNA. Like, green-blue is the kind of color combination that's just like, that's amazing, and I want to see what we can do with that, because it's blue's passion for, like, gotta keep improving, gotta keep doing better, with like this like fascination with nature that green has, which is like, what if we could make a T-Rex happen? I mean, sure, T-Rexes are dangerous and will probably eat people, but like, what if we could make it happen? That's awesome. Let's do that. They're like the kind of like mad scientist type.
Well, they could also potentially be those guys that are like, oh, we're gonna like put like an astroturf bridge above the highway so the animals can try and cross the highway without getting hit. And so they designed like a not high tech, but it was like, there's like a bunch of thought into how they were going to like make it so it was more appealing for the animals than the highway. And then they had to like figure out how to suspend like a bunch of natural environment above a bridge, above the highway. But they actually, I think they put one up, or they like made a design for it. It's really cool.
Wow. I hadn't heard about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like that would fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in blue, green recognizes the desire for evolution and growth. They share a passion for improvement, and even though green disagrees with blue's desire to speed things up and interfere with the natural process of change, it appreciates that underlying desire to build upon what exists and make something better. Green and blue tends to be very bad at understanding their own flaws and recognizing their limitations.
Like, maybe we shouldn't make a T-Rex?
Yeah, like maybe we shouldn't, or maybe we shouldn't like experiment on people even if it leads to interesting results. Like that's like taken to its extreme. It's like green blue tends to kind of do that, and I mean, there's a lot of like examples in history of like scientists performing like pretty unethical experiments on like people and animals. That's green blue taken to a very like unhealthy, toxic extreme.
Uh-huh.
Um, Last but not least, we have the charming, the hedonistic, the hungry for pleasure. Black red. Black cares about omnipotence. Red cares about action. So black red, when you smash those together, it wants to do whatever it wants with no limitations, with no regrets. It's amorality and chaos all jammed into one. Life is meaningless. It holds no value. There's nothing sacred about life in the natural world. So the only thing that I need to do is what makes me feel good right now.
Mm-hmm.
Black red is the ultimate hedonist. They don't care about like what the rules say they shouldn't do. They just want, and if they want, it's the same as like need.
Yeah.
Wants and needs are essentially the same thing to someone who's very red-black. Living pleasurably is far more important than living safely to them. And most rules are designed to keep people from doing what they want. They believe that people would be happier if they just followed their impulses and didn't listen to what other people tell them to do. Even if like two people tend to like oh, these two people's desires clash.
Oh, that's the kind of people that don't wear masks in stores, and then when you tell them to, they cough on you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're just like, listen, like, I don't want to be restricted by your rules. I've decided your rule is dumb. I don't care if that makes me responsible for other people's death, because those are other people and not me, and other people don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very extreme example of red-black, but yeah, that's very much it. It's that sense of like chaos and like gut feeling and impulse mixed together with a desire to, or not a desire, but like the idea that morality isn't relevant to decision making. You slam those two things together, and it's like it doesn't matter what happens with other people as long as I'm doing what I want to do. Then I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
And damn the rest. So yeah. So that was kind of like well, not brief.
Like a crash course.
That was a crash course. Yeah, I mean, like it's brief in the sense that there's like so much more nuance to this topic. You don't have to be a fan of Magic the Gathering or to play the card game to like dive into this philosophy and use it to kind of like start looking at the way different people react to things. It's a method that I've used, and like I use it instead of alignment in D&D, or like instead of like Myers-Briggs types when I like analyze people, because I'm definitely the type
or
of person.
Sometimes just in real life to talk about why people do the things they do.
Right. Yeah, like finding out where someone's color alignment is helps you kind of get a sense of like, oh, well, why did they act that way in this situation? And like it makes sense when you kind of know who they are as a person. So I guess we'll leave this one at like
at that. Maybe we'll come back to it at some point and talk about it a little more in depth after we've talked about a few different more topics or something like that.
Maybe we'll
we have to come back to it because we're gonna take the color alignment quiz.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll take some character suggestions, or if like I said before, if you want to like, if you're interested in like, oh, well, like this is one of my favorite characters from said TV show or book or movie or video game or whatever. I like this character. What do you think their color line would be? Post it in the comments. I'd be happy to try to figure it out. Maybe I'm wrong.
Tell us your alignments, especially if you take the quiz. Post your results. Let us know.
Yeah, and like also I wouldn't like hate you posting like your full results too, because like it'll give you like a breakdown of like how like the weighted average of like each of the questions, like how much that color relates to you, and that kind of helps get a better sense of like how much of your personality is tied to one of the different colors perspectives.
And it'll also tell you what the colors mean on the quiz, so you don't have to come back to the podcast or look it up online and figure out what they mean on your own. It'll tell you exactly how much of which color you are, so you can actually weigh how much of it you have.
Right.
And then tell you what they mean.
Exactly. When you do take the test too, don't worry about like it'll say like, oh, you're in the Boros Legion or the Team of
Oh
Friends.
yeah.
That's Magic the Gathering game terms. Don't worry about that. That's just like there are factions in the game that are those combinations and they kind of represent that. That's just telling you that. Just focus on like what each color's breakdown is and seeing how that like reflects your personality. But yeah, I'd be interested to find out if any of our listeners and commenters where they stand, and like I'd love to hear some like suggestions of like what do you think this character is, or like maybe even take your own crack at it and see if after listening to this you kind of have a better understanding of how this like psychographic archetype works and like how you can use it to like analyze media and stuff like that. Just interested in what you all think of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure. I went long winded again talking about my passions, which is a recurring theme you'll see from me. But we appreciate you listening today. I appreciate you giving me some like fun and challenging characters to analyze.
Oh yeah. Not a
Um,
problem at all.
and yeah, we'll be back again next week. Do we want to like tease a little bit
Tease the
about
thing
what
for
next?
next
Yeah,
week.
you're on next week's topic. So tease a little bit about what can we expect from next week? I'm very curious.
Well, I'm not gonna go too hard into it, because if I tell you too much, it's kind of a broad topic. So if I tell you too much, you're gonna get it.
Okay, yeah.
But it's definitely
Hints are good.
it's gonna be spooky again.
Ah, I'm ready to not sleep well. It's great.
Oh yeah, especially because
Good thing I got a bunch of days off.
it's gonna be we're gonna record at night. It's gonna be spooky, and it's gonna be a little bit longer than last time. I can only imagine because I wrote down a few different things. So
Ooh, I'm excited to hear you go off about it. All right, so look forward to yet another spooky podcast next week. Thanks for tuning in. Um, have yourselves a wonderful week, and we love and appreciate you.
yeah, we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.